I am about ready to finish the markup for our homepage. And to do that, of course, we need to complete the footer. We have a stay in touch area, maybe a larger piece of content about our company. It looks like we have a login with a possible form. And then, of course, we have a sub footer, and we're going to take care of all of that right now. All right, so let's open up our editor again and head down to the end of our last row. It's always a good place to start, so we know that we're free and clear to do what we need. But before we go any further, our client actually thinks that it would be kind of neat if our footer actually stretched the full width of the page. And how do we do that within Bootstrap, since we've been designing by this one container this entire time? It's kind of a safe zone. Well, that's actually pretty simple. We just need to create a new container. At any point in the page, no matter what the element is, you can actually create a container within another element that is full width. And so that lets us be flexible that way. We'll start out a new div, or actually a new footer, since that's the more semantic element here. A footer with a class of full width, just in case we need to do any exact measuring, and then an additional class of foot. That may seem like we're doubling over, but we're actually not. I might use the class of foot to single out that footer element, because we might use the footer element in other things. You know, for instance, like a post or an article. You might have a footer to your article that's not the footer on your website. There we go. We're going to end that. But within our footer, of course, we're going to start with a brand new container. So open up a div with the class of container. And we will go ahead and add our commenting saying that we're going to end that container. There we go. Next thing, we're going to need to have a column wherein we place our stay in touch text. So we'll start out with a div, class of column small 6, and then an additional class of column medium. We're going to mix it up, 3. Then we're going to also call this a widget, since it kind of is. It's kind of a widget within our footer. And then we're going to end up our classes, and we're going to close out our div. So we're going to end that column. Bring that in, and then let's paste in some text along with our markup. There it is, an H3 and a paragraph tag that's just to kind of fill this space up. Next thing, let's add to our container by placing a column, opening up another div, class of column small 6, and then add an additional column medium 6. So of course this is going to be larger than our column medium 3 that we had just a bit before, but we're going to call that a widget just the same. Alright, let's end that out, and we'll paste in some of our content. Looks like we have a couple paragraphs in there and maybe a heading, so that looks good. Alright, and then one more. I'm just going to paste in this whole thing, and then we'll talk it through. See that we missed the opening div tag. Alright, so we have a div with a class of small 6, so we know that on a small screen this is actually going to take up half of the screen, so that's like phones. And then on a medium screen, so from tablets to desktops, we're going to take up a column of 3, so it's going to equal out to the same width as our first column. And so we have 3 plus 3 plus 6, so 1, 2, and these two are 3 equaling up to 6 itself, and then of course we end up with the last 6 being in the middle. So it's kind of a neat, balanced layout. And then we're going to open up with a H3 tag right here with a client login. And then we're going to open up just a Bootstrap form. So it'd be a form with a class of foot form. And then we have our form group with the input of email, another form group with the input of password, and then just a button. If you'd like to know more about Bootstrap forms, head back over to the Bootstrap website. We'll go into the CSS, and then we'll head down to forms, and then you can see how to set up any form type or content that you might need. All right, we'll exit out of that, and then we'll simply save, and let's see what we have in the browser. Alright, so we'll blow this up and we will refresh. And if we head on down, there we have it. We have our Stay in Touch, our company, and that's a nice 6, along with our Bootstrap powered form. So let's make this small and let's see what happens. So once we've gone really small down to like a phone here, we can see that our navigation and our brand has changed out to be responsive, and so we can drop our responsive navigation down, in fact have different drop downs within that. Also, if we head further down, we can see that all of our footer elements, Stay in Touch, our company, are all now in line, and they're full width elements at the smallest phone size. But whenever we go a little bit larger, then we can see that in this case we would have 1/2, 1/2, and an additional half right here. You know, but there is something that just kind of feels off about this. I don't think that the content flows the way that I want it to, and moreover, the client told us that they don't necessarily think that clients will be logging in on devices that are exceptionally small. So we can take steps to remedy that. We can actually hide divs or whole sections selectively depending on the device. All you need to do that is head over to Bootstrap, get into the documentation. Let's make our documentation a little bit bigger, and there we have it. And we're already on responsive utilities. So let's go to the available utilities. And so here I'm going to actually use a couple. I want to declare what this form is visible on. We for sure want it visible on medium devices. So that seems fine. Desktops that are quite large, and then also large devices. So really big desktops, that is okay. But our client doesn't want them visible on small and extra small phones. And we completely get it. We're going to accommodate that pretty easily. So what I've done is in our markup, I've gone ahead and put in classes of visible large and visible medium right there. Let's save that. Head back over to our site. And you can see here that we're at a large desktop, medium desktop. Once we hit our small, kind of a tablet, and then an extra small phone, nothing changes. We no longer see the form, but we are being responsive and responsible about our markup. And while looking at our code, there's actually a few things that we might have missed, and you might have caught it already. We did declare a container, and then we just got started on setting up all of our divs. Now, that's fine in some cases, but to be safe, it is best that we would have gone in and declared a row right there, since this is kind of a whole nother block of content. Let's end that row, and we will take this down to the bottom, to the end of our container. So we'll go down to where our container ends and type in another row. We'll refresh and see that that actually did line our content up a little bit better. So things are looking better, our markup is saved. And we'll go past this container and we'll start a whole new container. To end our page, we need this little credits area that I talked to you guys about. And I'm just going to paste this in because it's a pretty quick explanation. Below our main footer, I'm going to open up another div with a class of credits. So let's check this out. We have our paragraph with a column medium 10. So we're planning on this taking up to 10 columns. So it's a pretty long little credits list. And then we have our copyright symbol along with our information. Then we have a little aside. So it's kind of a sidebar. It's not primary content to the area that we're in, with a class of social, because this is where we're placing our social icons. And then next, we're making use of that icon font library that we had found just before, and using the icon Facebook sign. Follow us on Facebook, giving that kind of a title, good SEO and good user experience. We're making use of the icon Twitter sign. Now, we've made a couple of mistakes here, and those are easily remedied, right? So here we have a follow us on Facebook, and that seems good, and then we have a Twitter sign. And the title being follow us on Facebook doesn't quite make much sense there, so we'll change that out to follow us on Twitter. There we go. And just as how we did before, and it's good to kind of keep up with this, we need to make sure that this is found within a row. So we'll have a div with a class of row. And we will end our row. let's take this. Let's get right before our container ends, and it looks like we're all done. Let's go and test it out and see what we look like. And as we go down here, we have our footer area. Let's go and make sure that this is stretching the full width. So full width footer and the full width credits. Looks like we're doing good. Oh, but you know what? There is something missing here, and that is our Twitter and Facebook signs. Let's make sure that they are operating properly. Let's head up to our head. Oh, doesn't look like we're making any call to that. So let's adjust this just a little bit. Below our bootstrap.css, we'll simply paste in our link to, and this is the Bootstrap CDN from NetDNA that we kind of reviewed a little bit earlier. We have a rel of style sheet, so this is just like a normal style sheet, except for it has nothing to do with the local files on our site. It's a good way to kind of keep your site fast with using a CDN, but also up to date. So that's kind of a nice, good tip to use those. Let's refresh. And there we have it. Our Facebook and Twitter signs are popping up appropriately. And so the next step we have is to get our site styled. We're going to do that using Less, the framework and the CSS preprocessor that is actually powering Twitter Bootstrap itself. And I'm going to show you how to use the power of Less to dynamically change the way that Bootstrap behaves and fit it in the way that we need our site to perform. So when you're ready, let's head over to the next video.